Is that a limiting belief, that the fact that I'm feeling lonely and scared right now?
No, I think it's a very appropriate belief, and beyond a belief, it's really an experience, right? Feeling lonely and scared is an emotional state. It's not really something you believe. You might believe in, Christianity, you might believe in other realms and UFOs, right? These are beliefs, but what you're feeling is scared and alone. So I think given what's going on right now, it's very appropriate. What I would want to look at is how accurate it is. So people's feelings, I totally allow people to have their feelings. We're sentient beings, we feel, that's what we do. What I like to inquire about and investigate is the validity of feelings, because I tell people feelings are just a terrible indicator of truth. Just because we feel something doesn't mean it's the way it is, but we're sentient beings, as I said, so we tend to lean a lot on our feelings as the precursor to the choices we make. So the most powerful human being, as far as I'm concerned, is the one that can make space for all of them, to make space for all your emotions. It's okay that you feel a little sad. Now, what happens is, as you integrate, make space, you accept, you invite to the dinner table with all your other emotions, that feeling of scared or loneliness, it starts to dissipate. It doesn't carry the same charge, because it's okay. It's just part of the tapestry, this rich palette of emotions that we all have as human beings. There's just tough things to deal with as a human being. I am not free of the challenges of life, but I am free of the struggle with the challenges of life. Now, if you really understand that, it's very powerful.
Hi, my name is Aggie, and this is Biohacking Bestie. The one-stop shop for a modern queen, where you can find biohacking courses, self-growth courses, and where you can find the most incredible community of women so you can hit all of your biohacking goals and beyond.
How are you?
I'm doing great. All things being considered, I am blessed to be somebody who loves my home. So this is sort of business as usual for me.
You've been training for this year. I saw this meme. It's like all the introverts, we've been training for this our entire life.
Yes, who knew social distancing was my favorite pastime?
So, Peter, you've been called the mind architect. You've been called the Marie Kondo of the mind. What does it mean?
It's a great question. I really came up with the title because I thought so many other titles that people had would been sort of contaminated with meaning, right? There's like life coach, spiritual teacher, guru, and I just really looked and broke down what it is that I'm actually doing, which is looking at these deep programs of everybody's subconscious mind, right? If you're human, you're going to be dealing with these things that I help people to transcend and get beyond. So, and it really was, I used to love drawing. It's sort of one of my pastimes as a kid. And so I, at one point, thought I would get into architecture. And I love the idea of taking something in space, right? Like if we're given space, a blank canvas, we get the opportunity to create. So what I was looking at is like, what's the space that people live in here? Like this is the ultimate space. It is our ultimate home. And for the most part, with no judgment, most people's creations aren't that empowering. So I wanted to do some tenant improvements and really help people to create a much more vital, a much more free, a much more enlivening space to live in. So Mind Architecture seems to be the appropriate title.
Oh, so good. Okay, so
yeah.
I feel like I'm going to take one for the team because I feel like a lot of people are going through similar things right now. So I'm living by myself. I feel lonely and I feel scared.
Okay.
And I know that this is where you come in and so you're like, oh, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you, is that a limiting belief, that the fact that I'm feeling lonely and scared right now?
No, I think it's a very appropriate belief, and beyond a belief, it's really an experience, right? Feeling lonely and scared is an emotional state. It's not really something you believe. You might believe in, Christianity, you might believe in other realms and UFOs, right? These are beliefs, but what you're feeling is scared and alone. So I think given what's going on right now, it's very appropriate. What I would want to look at is to how accurate it is, right? Like, so people's feelings, I totally allow people to have their feelings. We're sentient beings. We feel, that's what we do. What I like to inquire about and investigate is the validity of feelings, because feelings, I tell people feelings are just a terrible indicator of truth, right? Just because we feel something doesn't mean it's the way it is, but we're sentient beings, as I said, so we tend to lean a lot on our feelings as the precursor to the choices we make. So one of my terms and one of my expressions I say is that life will present you with people and circumstances to reveal where you're not free. Right? Now, if you really get that, it's a very profound way to relate to life. So if ever we get triggered, if we get upset, if we get scared, if we feel lonely, if we get angry, whatever it is that we experience by virtue of something outside of us, some external stimulus, it's basically revealing where we're not okay with something, right? In lay terms, you saying that you're scared and you feel lonely, those feelings themselves, I want you to understand, aren't the problem, right? A lot of people right now could totally relate to you. They feel scared and they feel lonely. What I want people to understand is there's no problem, zero, zilch, with feeling scared and lonely. The problem is when you don't want to feel scared and lonely, right? So it's our resistance to emotions and feelings that generates the suffering. And my work is to dissipate, remove, completely eradicate suffering, which last I checked is a pretty cool thing to be able to do, right? Like, so if you can live in a complete state of bliss and happiness and peace, then, I think you're pretty winning, you're winning in life, right? So there's two things we want to do here. We want to recognize you feel scared, you feel lonely. The first thing is what I call this quintessential maternal mother energy, right? Like the ultimate mother energy, not as a human. The human can't live up to the quintessential fully expressed energy because any woman is also going to be dealing with her own limitations, right? And this is why I tip my cap to all parents, especially mothers, because they bust their asses to try and take care of these other human beings. But if we look at the energy of a quintessential mother, it is unconditional, it is nurturing, it is holding, right? It is a blanket, an emotional blanket of safety. So the first thing when we feel these emotions that we quote unquote don't want, then we want to bring that energy of the quintessential maternal nurturing energy, which is, in lay terms again, it's okay, honey. Like you can imagine a real mothering mother, you feel scared, it's like, oh baby, come here, right? They would hold you. So there's nothing to fix.
I'm scared. It'll be like, oh, that's pretty normal because you're by yourself for 4 weeks.
Yeah, and beyond that, whatever your mind is telling you about what could happen, right? That's where fear comes in, which maybe we'll cover. But just the actual present state feeling of being scared and lonely is incredibly normal for a human being. So we want to embrace it. We want to be okay with it. It's okay. So why I like to use these archetypes of mom and dad is because everyone can relate, right? I'm assuming everyone was a kid at one point and they had parents, right? So everyone can go, oh yes, I know those moments. I hope everybody had those moments where they felt completely held by the mothering energy. So whatever you're feeling, it's okay. We want to bring that sense of love, acceptance, compassion, and as I said, just this sort of embrace that it's okay. That immediately, if people really get that, it should bring some relief, right? It's okay to be scared, right? The resistance is what creates, as I said, the internal angst, the suffering, the restlessness, like, oh my gosh, the feeling that I've got to do something about it. I'm scared and this is bad.
So some people get on their phones or trying to avoid that as well.
Distractions, drinking, smoking weed, eating, people do all sorts of things to get away from their feelings, right? Which is ironically why I think this period that we're in, where everybody is being forced into the cocoons of their own home, is a very profound time to sit with your own emotional body, to sit with your own feeling state and be okay with it. I often give this metaphor. I said, if you were to throw a dinner party and you had to invite all your emotions, right? And you're going through the guest list and it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to bring happiness. Oh, of course. Oh, fun. He's awesome. And I'm going to bring humor and positivity. Always great. I'm going to bring intelligence, or insights. They always have great things to say at the dinner table. And joy is awesome. But then you get down the list, you're like, oh shit, do I really have to bring sadness? Anger, I don't know. That gets pretty messy when anger's at the table. And then depression, I don't know if I want to invite depression, right? So we start to get we cherry pick, we select the emotions we want. But that's not how life works. Yin and yang, male, female, right? There's a duality to everything. So the most powerful human being, as far as I'm concerned, is the one that can make space for all of them, to make space for all your emotions. It's okay that you feel a little sad. Now, what happens is, as you integrate, make space for you accept, you invite to the dinner table with all your other emotions, that feeling of scared or loneliness, it starts to dissipate. It doesn't carry the same charge because it's okay. It's just part of the tapestry, this rich palette of emotions that we all have as human beings. So just as we can stare at the sky and we're okay with clouds or a thunderstorm, or just a spattering of these little white puffs of clouds, whatever is coming and going, we recognize that it is part of the whole expression of weather. We may have preferences, of course. So likewise with our emotions, but we understand that we can't just have sun. Even in LA, we don't always get sun. I mean, most of the time. So it's
rainy.
Yeah, today it's cloudy. It's like, okay, and that's an expression of life. So the degree to which we can make space for the expressions, all the expressions that we have as human beings, is that quintessential maternal energy of like, honey, it's okay. And that gives breathing room. Then we can get into the paternal, the father, the male energy, which is the fixing. I want to do something about it, right? Like, I don't want to feel this, and let's understand it. Why are you feeling scared? What is the deep-seated fear, right? That's more analytical. But unless you start with the embrace, unless you start with the integration, then you're always reacting. You're always trying to run away from something, which is how most people, of course, live their lives, sadly. Which is why most people are exhausted.
Sit down and feel their feelings, and that's
just to be with, just to be with ourselves is such a beautiful exercise, because this is maybe another topic for another time, but like relationships, right? The number one thing I probably deal with, even though I'm dealing with these high-end performers in life, is I'm usually dealing with some kind of relationship, right? We experience life because of relationship, not just with people, how I relate to time, how I relate to my environment, how I relate to money, how do I relate to my body. We have relationships everywhere. And so this period, if we really want to maximize the opportunity that I feel this is for everybody, is to be able to sit with what is my relationship to myself, to my own dialogue, to the narratives that are always there. But maybe we don't see them because we're busy. Like if you're feeling lonely and sad or scared, my invitation to you would be to really look carefully. Was that always there? Because my guess is if it's coming up now, it's not because of the circumstance, it's because that's been there a lot, even when you were in a relationship, right? And only you can answer, and to whatever degree you want to be vulnerable. But, most people are in relationships, like they're married, they have boyfriends, life partners, girlfriends, whatever it is, but they feel lonely. So we start to understand, hang on a minute, it's not based on our circumstances, it's based on our own relationship to ourselves. So whatever's being exposed right now, because people are being forced into this sort of silo, this silence where they're sitting with themselves, my invitation is to really be honest with ourselves and go, hang on a minute, the fear I'm feeling, the loneliness I'm feeling, the lack of self-worth that I'm feeling, maybe, just maybe that was there.
I have to say,
for years and months before.
Yeah, I have to say, so when I was in the relationship, I remember it was a very passionate relationship because we would fight a lot. And I remember thinking like, oh my God, that person make me feel like I'm not enough. Like no matter what I do, nothing's ever good enough.
Yeah.
And then we had a conversation. I had a conversation with that person the other day, and I was going to say the same thing. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe that even though we're no longer together, you still make me feel like I'm not enough. But then I said, no, like you trigger something that's already within me. There's the part of me that feels not enough. And hang out with you, just being my mirror, because every time I hang out with you, you make me feel like I'm trying to like prove and like win your attention and love. So this is a similar situation where like being lonely makes me just realize that I've already had that within me. I just didn't pay attention.
Perfect, right? So even in the way you just described that relationship with someone that you know, in your wording, you make me feel like I'm not enough. That's totally inaccurate, right? That's how it is.
Yeah, like only after doing your course, as I was about to say the same words, and I'm like, this is so not true. This is it.
Exactly. Beautiful. But now with that, you get freedom and power, right? Because it's like you're free of the illusion that you're a victim of circumstance or that you're a victim of somebody else, whatever they say. People can say whatever the hell they want about me. I mean, obviously it's nice if they say nice things, but who am I to judge their reality and how I occur in it? You know, that's not my business. Like, I let people be who they are. So
other people's opinion about me is not my business.
It's really not. I mean, listen, it can impact things, right? It might be somebody you care about. It might be someone you do business with. It might be somebody you share an office space with. Of course, we want to, as much as we can, encourage harmony and unity and a great sense of companionship. So sometimes when people don't get along, there's a past hurt that hasn't been reconciled, right? Somebody said something or did something that did hurt somebody, and you haven't taken responsibility for it, or they haven't expressed the impact that you had, right? This is a way to learn to communicate and make relationships really beautiful. But to understand just the dynamics of what you're feeling right now is what's being revealed. It's not what's being created, right? I did a couple of videos on my Instagram that people loved about this time and COVID and coronavirus, right? And just to help, like, I broke it down into mental and emotional, physical, and then I still got to do the last one about the spiritual relationship.
I'm waiting for that one.
I know. Well, I was under the weather myself. I had some mild symptoms, so which just passed, right? Again, to whatever degree.
It's okay.
There's a lot of. No. Just keep a distance. There's a lot of nonsense out there. But anyway, so my point is, in sharing about the whole virus, I was saying the coronavirus isn't creating despair. It's not. It's revealing the despair that's already there, right? So the fear that most people walk around on the planet every day under the illusion that life is great and they had their jobs and they could go to their restaurants of choice and they could go on holiday and travel on airplanes. All of the things that were previously available to us. What I'm asserting is that beneath the surface, there is, as every human being is primal, is a restlessness, a dis-ease, an absence of true freedom, right? And that's the beauty of this time, is that we get to really open that up and find, where can I establish a greater sense of real freedom and peace regardless of circumstance? It's not dependent upon my ability to, go to Turks and Caicos on vacation, or, like, that is not where I find my joy. My joy is in me, and it's fun to go there. Do you know what I mean? But we're not dependent on circumstance.
Yeah, I mean, it's the biggest challenge, but I love, because people have this biggest hallucination or this illusion that back in the day, we were in control of things and we're certain of things. Right. People are like, these uncertain times. Can you talk about it and how you see Corona not necessarily being the uncertain times?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the main pillars of my work. It's how I got to where I got to. I was in a relationship and I thought, I was in a good relationship with love and all of the things that we'd want in a romantic relationship. And to cut to the chase, she decided one day she was going to leave, and I sort of fell apart. And what it brought to the surface was what was already there, which is what I'm saying here. What was already there was my fear of loss, a very, very deep-seated fear of loss. Why? Because my parents had died when I was very young, and so that was part of my relationship to value, right? Like, these are my role models, my mom and dad, and I was young. So anything of value in my brain's perception was something that I had to hold on to and make sure I never lost. So here comes along somebody that I thought I was in love with, and what I understood to be love at that time. And then she goes, which triggers the fear of loss that was already in me, right? I didn't necessarily feel it, because while she's there's the illusion of security, right? So this is what I'm speaking to here, is there's the illusion of security, the illusion of companionship that is being brought to the surface now when people are feeling the absence of them. So the uncertainty part, what I realized is, it took me a while. It took me a couple of months of my own suffering and sleepless nights and frustration. But what I realized is the very nature, the very fabric of life is uncertainty. That's its nature. Like, that doesn't change. Like, it's saying that, like, fire is hot. Like, we all know that, right? Like, fire is hot. Like, it's an inherent, an innate quality that belongs as part of the characteristic of fire. So life, its very nature, is uncertainty. Now, this is where it gets tricky. That doesn't change. That's always the way. And as human beings, we have a brain that is designed to predict, to protect, right? If we can try and figure out what's going to happen, the illusion is that I can protect myself and stay safe. That's the illusion.
Yeah.
Right. But it's always illusory and transitory, right? Because maybe you have a job that gives you a sense of security and there's a great sense of like income and like, oh, I feel safe. But are you really safe if that job is pulled away that you no longer feel safe? Or was it just transitory, right? And I'm not denying that it makes life easier and you can pay bills. And of course, this is all, very important. But we're looking at the emotional experience of myself as a human being, independent of circumstance, right? Assuming nobody's starving. There are certain needs like Maslow's hierarchy, which maybe people are familiar with in psychology. As long as you've got some kind of food, some sort of shelter, then basically everything else is trappings, right? It's like you have the new phone or the old phone. That's not what your survival is dependent upon, right? For your ego, it might feel like it. But so once assuming, and I know a lot of people right now are legitimately struggling with some of that food and shelter, right? For which I have immense amount of compassion, and I hope collectively we can all help each other. I'm doing my part for people that are in my life that are struggling. So, but beyond that, if we're just dealing with the emotional part of this, then the grappling, the trying to figure stuff out is for emotional security. It's not for physical security. It's like the ego that is scared because it's projecting worst case scenarios, right? Like one of my quotes, I say, most people are trying to avoid a bad future that hasn't happened yet. And that's just where the brain is constantly trying to figure things out as a form, as a mechanism, as a survival mechanism for self-preservation. And that's okay, but what I want people to see, to come back to the question, is if the backdrop of life is uncertainty, and then at the forefront we have a mechanism of the human ego and the brain of trying to figure it out, you start to see why people are exhausted. Because it doesn't matter how hard you try to figure it out, you can't. Why? Because life is uncertain. So,
and this was just like a good reminder to everyone that this what you never know. Like last month, I got back from Africa and I was like, had all these plans. I saw you, we were just, sunbathing, doing acro yoga. And then 4 days later, we're all locked up in our houses.
I haven't seen another human being for weeks, right?
Yeah.
So now where I want people to get from this is it's one thing to understand that the nature of life is uncertain and that the nature of the human brain is to try and predict. It's another thing to be able to reconcile that, to find peace with it, right? To go, oh, wow, life is uncertain, and it doesn't matter how much I try to figure it out, I can't. So where freedom comes in, which is my main product, is buying, it's up. It's so good. It's just my main product, is to be totally free from the shackles of our own subconscious, right? There's nothing as far as I'm concerned that is more priceless than that. To have true inner peace is what people are looking for. They're looking for it through the illusion of external circumstance, right? When, fill in the blank, right? My body's right, I have the right partner, I have the right job, I have the big enough home, then I'm going to be free. Well, no, then you're a slave to circumstance, and that's exhausting. So understand, life is uncertain by virtue of being human, for which reason it's okay. You're always trying to figure out what's going to happen to protect yourself, but that's exhausting. It's also futile. So freedom is, can I be okay not knowing what's going to happen? And that is where we have to develop a lot of trust and patience and faith to realize that we are specks. We're specks on a bigger speck called planet Earth that is a speck in the solar system, that is a speck in the galaxy. And you know what I mean? It's like we're really tiny and we're trying to figure everything out all the time, which is okay. That's what the human brain is designed to do. But it's an exercise in futility, and it creates the cascade of physiological upsets and imbalances that people deal with, from anxiety to worry to fear to concern to apprehension to IBS to, all of the things that happen by virtue of a system being in a constant state of fight or flight. So
I'm sitting at home on my couch, eating ice cream and feeling love.
Sounds great.
And I'm feeling like, oh my, and I have, my mind is telling me, okay, it's another month.
Yeah.
Getting nothing done. Your business is just, you're not making any money. It's stressful. you don't even know how to help people. Like, so I'm starting to like doing these lives, but are these are they even good enough? Like, I have all of these thoughts. Can you help me?
Yeah, for sure.
Be better at talking to myself.
I rather than be better at talking to yourself, I want you to be better at listening to yourself. And it's a very subtle but important distinction. Oh, boom. Was that a moment?
It was a moment. I was like, Oprah aha moment.
Yeah. So that's a tweetable, I think Oprah calls it, right? So everybody tweet that, right? So it's not about having better self-talk. I want you to consider the talk is automated because your subconscious patterns generate thoughts. You don't sit there and go, oh, I would like to, in a couple of minutes, what I'm going to do consciously is start worrying and thinking about this month that I have to be at home and I'm not going to do anything. Yeah, I'm going to consciously do that. No, you're sitting there eating your ice cream and the thought arises automatically. Where you don't have power, like most people, and this speaks to relationships, is you don't listen to that thought, you react to it.
Yeah, so I should be having this thought, it's uncomfortable, like...
More resistance, right? Versus, oh, that's interesting. That's an interesting thought, but I'm going to be at home for another month and I'm not going to get anything done. Is that true, right? You get to, so I like people to investigate their thoughts, which is listening. It's like how relationships don't work. They don't work is because people don't listen. They react. Somebody says, well, you should do this and you should go to the gym. And they're like, well, fuck you. You should do it. It's like, they're not listening. It's like someone just says you should go to the gym. Okay, that's fascinating. I appreciate you sharing your opinion. You know, it's like, I get that that's what they think. That's their reality. I appreciate it. You know, thank you. That's very generous. You know, you let me into your world and what you think I should be doing with my life. That's actually, it's kind. Right? So when it comes to our own thought,
it's funny. I don't know why the way you say it, it's hilarious.
Because it's just how it works. It's just logic. It's very simple. Relationships are very simple, except they're not because people don't know how to listen. They just react. Why? Because people are walking around in bubbles of fear trying to protect themselves. So everything is a potential threat. The way the media, just these narratives that they are just totally inspiring the fear that is already there. So it's not the media's fault, but it isn't contributing. You know, it's like last week, the Surgeon General was saying, this is going to be the worst week, like Thursday and Friday. Trump and the Surgeon, this is going to be like 9/11. Lots and lots of deaths, like this, like really macabre tone and like, get ready. Then it's Tuesday and they're like, hey, there's light at the end of the tunnel. It's like, wait, what? What just happened? And then the market rallies for 4 days. Who the hell knows what's going on, right? Like, so the point is, listen, the pinch of salt expression, you know, take everything with a pinch of salt, like meaning don't necessarily take things for gospel. The trouble is when it's in our own skull, it's so close to us that we believe everything that we think. But it is a very intelligent mind that can entertain the thoughts that it has without believing them. Right? So first of all, if we just to break down what you said, well, I'm going to be here for another month. Now, we don't even know that's true.
Right? 2 or 3.
It could be less. Listen, you could die of a heart attack because you're eating too much fucking ice cream in like a week. I don't know. So don't worry about it, right? Do you see what I'm saying? So we just start to have like this inquiry. We start to question our own dialogue because honestly, humans are full of you know what? Like most people just lie. They just lie. Hey, New Year's resolutions. I'm going to get in shape and I'm going to do this. No, you don't. No, you quit like a week after. It doesn't make you a bad person, but your words don't carry any value. This is when I help parents understand why their children don't listen to them. I'm like, because you talk out of your rear. You make promises for things that you don't keep. You make threats that you don't follow through. And your kids are like, hey, why should I listen to them? Nothing they say actually is true. I get that. I just went on a bit of a rant. But the point is, you want to be able to have the discernment. It is about discernment to listen to what people say without taking it as fact. It's not fact.
I'm sorry about it, but it's just, I think it's my nervous reaction to everything you say, and it's like really hitting home.
Okay, good.
It's making me like, in a way, uncomfortable, and it causes
like me, right? So he comes to me, he's like, hey dude, you need to help me lose 20 pounds. And I'm like, no, I don't. He's like, what do you mean? I said, well, you know, I don't need to do anything. He's like, well, no, I need to lose 20 pounds. I'm like, no, you don't. He's like, what? I said, you don't need to do anything. Look at the energy of need. Need has got so much resistance. I need to do something, right? It's forceful.
It sounds like I don't want to, but I have to. Like,
right. Yeah. Have to, need, should, supposed to. They're all bedfellows. They all create just resistance in our body. So I said to him,
dictionary.
Yes, need, push. So he got it because he knows me, and he's like, okay, fine. Well, I want to lose, 20 pounds. I'm like, okay, great. That's awesome. What are you doing about it? And then he goes, well, we were just shooting in Europe and I came back. And so now if I go to the gym, because I'm at the gym all day with my clients, so then if I stay to work out for myself, my girlfriend gets upset because I don't see her. Like, he comes up with some bullshit story, right? Right? Which is justifiable. It's a good reason, but it totally showed me he doesn't want to lose weight. He wants to lose weight without doing anything about it, which is what most people want, right? Yeah. I tell people you don't get what you want in life by just wanting it. You have to do something, right? So I said, so he told me this story. I said, so you don't want to lose weight. So that's the truth. And he starts laughing. This is why I'm sharing this, because you're laughing.
Oh, yeah. Okay, cool.
This is the whole point I'm making, is you said it makes you laugh because I'm just pointing out the truth without judgment. Sit at home, eat ice cream all you want. But if you're listening to your head of, I'm stuck here for a month, that's a depressing thought, right? So anyway, he starts laughing. He's like, dude, you're so right. Like, I can't be bothered. I said, no, what you're worried about is you're a celebrity trainer and you're a little soft, as trainers go, and it doesn't fit the image. And so you're fighting how you look, which is, of course, what most people are freaking worried about, is how do I appear to the world? Because we want to be loved and accepted. That's a whole nother topic of conversation. And I said, so you're in conflict with yourself because you're a celebrity trainer who doesn't have a freaking chiseled abs. And so now you're judging yourself for the fact that you need to lose weight when you don't. You're great as a trainer. You get results. Like, who cares? And he just starts laughing. He's like, dude, oh my God, you just saved me so much time. I'm like, yeah, you came to me lying. You need to do something. No, you don't. Then you pretended that you want to do something. No, you don't. You're lazy. You can't be bothered. And now you're free. I saw him like 2 months later. He'd lost like 15 pounds, not changing one thing, but he'd let go of all the fight inside of himself. So that's why it's funny. That's why it's liberating. This is why we love comedians, because they point out things that maybe sometimes are a little bit taboo or we don't talk about, because, humans are full of shit. We're full of shit. At times I'd probably still do it because it's so ingrained, but I feel pretty good about the fact that I'm transparent. I just said how it is. And that's so liberating.
It's so true about losing weight, because back in the day, like, whenever I feel like, oh, I'm putting on weight, I need to like go on a diet, that actually triggers even more, like me wanting to eat more. And in a way, like, it makes me feel like, it makes me put on more weight, because I'm just, all of a sudden I feel like now I need to watch what I eat, because I'm like getting...
Yes. But the part of you that's having that conversation is not you. That is ego, because it's worried about its value asset to the world. Yeah. Human beings are designed to try and be loved and accepted. This is the biggest illusion. Why? Because we think we're separate. So if we think that we're separate, now I have to do what I think I have to do in order to be accepted by the gang. Yeah, now, for a woman, how much of that pressure of value is put on your sexuality, on your appearance, on your physique? Right? It's insane. The amount of pressure that women are under to try and appear a certain way to fit into a gang that, by the way, you're already part of.
It's not even fitting in, but when you look on Instagram, for example, the women that make so much money through like blogger women, the ones that base their business on their looks, and way better engagement, have way better deals versus the ones that just...
Yeah, good for them. But that doesn't mean they're successful internally. See, we got to redefine what it means to be successful.
I want to talk about it. So let's...
Okay, great. Yeah. Well, I just feel like, we don't know, but somebody who's got 2 million followers and every picture is of them in a bikini, or whatever, which is fine. I mean, like, everybody do whatever they want. Like, I've got no judgment. But we don't know what that person's personal experience is. It could still be scared and lonely. It could be depressed. It could be anxious. I don't know. So there's so many assumptions. It's the emperor's new clothes. It's like what we're dealing with right now. There's so much BS out there, from media to government. Everybody's got an agenda. Nobody knows who's really telling the truth. Are these death numbers truly deaths? Or was it the person had 6 complications and they had these pre-existing conditions? Oh, and they tested for COVID, so we'll just throw it as COVID. I don't know. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. But I promise you, there's... So I like to ask questions. I like to question things, right? I don't just sit there and go, oh, okay, yeah, oh, that's true. No, I don't know. I like to listen. I like to use my own intelligence to have discernment. And I think if everybody from this could actually become a little bit more responsible, like I was saying to you, in the way that we listen, and then we actually start to create communion. We start to create conversations versus either reacting like no, or just assuming everything is true, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, the point is, I get back to the couch, back to the ice cream.
Decided to listen to myself.
Yeah, it's a very simple exercise. I ask everybody to put a question mark at the end of everything that you're thinking. I'm going to be here for a month, right? If you feel the energy of like, I'm going to be, especially if you say I'm going to be stuck here for a month, that energy is very heavy. It's confining. Our spirit is free. So if you have a thought that is confining, it is in direct conflict to the essence of our true nature, which is freedom. So now we feel uncomfortable. That is suffering. Think about what we do to humans when they, misbehave. They break the law. We put them in a prison, right? It's the physical embodiment of constraint. Yeah. But what everyone's walking around apparently free on planet Earth is in the constraint of their own subconscious. So everybody might look like they're free, but emotionally, I assert that most people are in the prison of their own creation. And that's why I love to help people break out of that. Like, that's why even my course is called Free Your Mind, right? Like, it's because I get to work with some of the most extraordinary people on the planet, whether it be in business, entertainment, sports. They have all the resources. They're not wanting for anything physically in terms of material or money. But mentally, they're like everybody else. They grew up in a family where things weren't perfect. And even if they were perfect, you're still going to have your fears. You're still going to have your limitations. You're still going to have your inadequacies because you're human. And so this is where we can't make assumptions about somebody's internal state of freedom and peace just because of external facade of success. And I think there's a lot to be learned from that because we put a lot of pressure on ourselves looking and comparing at others as though, well, we need to have what they have. You might be way more successful than that person because you're at peace with yourself, because you're okay with the circumstances of your life. You don't fight against reality. You know how to listen and engage with somebody without judgment. These, to me, are much more successful qualities than somebody who's got a lot of money, a lot of followers, but they have a huge amount of judgment. They don't get along with their parents. Whatever it is that is their facade, that to me is the antithesis of success. Success is real authenticity. It is peace of mind. It is being comfortable in your own skin to be you and to afford that to others, to come from kindness and let people be who they are. That to me is a successful human being.
And can you share with everyone what's your definition of happiness?
Yes, it's actually one of my quotes, one of my favorite quotes. Oh, look at you teeing me up for success. So when I really got this, like, happiness is a subjective experience, right? Like, you feel happy because something good happened. That's totally fine. But if you understand happiness, it's transitory, right? You're happy because something went well. Somebody said something nice. Oh my God, you look so pretty. You feel happy. Oh my God, you made some money. You feel happy. But true happiness, in the way I came up with this quote, I said, true happiness is the absence of the search for happiness. Now, why that to me...
Let's just repeat that so people,
really
louder for the people in the back row.
Who are sitting there eating their ice cream. They go, this guy's great. I'm just going to eat more ice cream. There's nothing wrong. So true happiness is the absence of the search for happiness. Now, why this is so profound, even though I came up with it myself, so that may sound somewhat self-complimentary, is that if we're not seeking happiness, if we're not searching happiness, we're not looking to some future, we hit a sweet spot. Look at this. This is your month at home. You're having the best fucking time. I keep something the F-bomb.
No,
Right? It's like, I can't wait to be at home for a month. Let's just do it live every day. We'll just have a crack up, right?
I'm literally crying right now.
So happiness that is absent of the desire to get to some idealized, perfected one-day future, that's real happiness, because what it's saying is, boom, I'm content where I am. Now, that's not to be misunderstood as resignation or cynicism and just apathy. No. I'm one of the most creative, driven, entrepreneurial people I know, and I'm so content to be where I am. So the two can coexist. So true happiness is the absence. I'm not trying to be somewhere I'm not. First of all, that doesn't work. Have you ever tried, have you ever been in your future, is what I ask people? But you're desperately thinking that that's where your happiness is going to be. No, wait, it's going to be awesome. Just wait one day when I finally lose that 5 pounds on my freaking love handles and da-da-da-da. Okay, great. How's that working out for you? It's implying that my happiness in the future means that I'm not happy today. That's called misery.
And it never ends, because when you're in the future, that's the other thing that you have. For sure.
Then you got to go and talk to your doctor and get a medication or, self-medicate. No judgment, but why? Why do that when it's all made up, right? So true happiness is the absence of the search of happiness. What it's actually doing is eradicating time, right? This gets a little bit philosophical and esoteric, is if in the absence of seeking for something, I'm eradicating the stress of trying to get somewhere. I suddenly become in harmony with present time. I'm in the now. Which we're always in the now. Like, it's just a funny conversation. People are like, hey, be in the now. I'm like, well, you don't have any effing choice. But you could be in your head talking to yourself about some idealized future, but you're always in the now. Hello, you're right there, right? So, but if you think that you should be somewhere else, well, now you're screwed, right? Because you're under the impression that what you're saying is where I am is not it. Okay, but where you are is always it. No. This isn't the way I want my life to be. Okay, but this is the way your life is, right? So you start to see that just the ridiculousness of how people fight reality,
but you can
then wonder why they're
fight something that doesn't exist, and the fact that you're not here doesn't exist. So it's like this whole.
It's an illusory conversation in your head, but the reality of your life, the way your body is right now, the way your bank account is right now, the job you have or the job you don't have, the house, the fact that you've got shit in your closet, whatever is going on in your life is the way it is. And I don't like the word perfect. I never say it's perfect. It is the way it is. And if you fight that, now you've got everything the way it is still, and now you're miserable, right? So it's like everything is the way it is, and you're frustrated, right? Versus it's just the way it is. And if you don't like it, then do something about it. Like, take action, right? Like, I worked with some of my pro athletes. I've gotten to work with Navy SEALs too, right? Because they come in and they will do talking about performance and under stress. And they, some of the guys love the whole mindset thing that I talk about. And they have a motto, which is so simple: deal with it. That's it. Deal with it, right? Because for them, lives are literally at stake. You don't sit there and go, oh my God, like I got hurt, like he hit me. It's like, meanwhile, your teammates are being shot, right? It's like, no, you deal with it, right? So right now, it's not easy. Okay, I got it. I'm the most loving, compassionate person you'll meet. I'll hold you, I'll hug you, but then let's deal with it. Let's do something, right? Let's handle it. Versus sitting there and feeling sorry for ourselves, which is totally human. It's okay. No judgment. This is why we need the mother to come in. They're there, it's okay. But then the dad comes in and goes, hey, I'm going to slap you on the ass and let's take care of some stuff, right? So for me, it's like...
Sounds like you grew up in Poland, because that's a lot of tough love,
It is a bit of tough love. I mean, I grew up without parents, so maybe that's like Poland. I don't know. It's a tough situation, right? Like, there's a certain degree of the absence of mollycoddling and having shit taken care of for me. But listen, I mean, there's a lot of joking here. Obviously, I want to bring some lightheartedness to people today. But there's tough things to deal with as a human being. I am not free of the challenges of life, put it that way. But I am free of the struggle with the challenges of life. Now, if you really understand that, it's very powerful. My life does not go exactly the way that Peter Crone wants it to go. There may be things that I'm excited about that don't work out. Okay, whoop-de-doo, do I feel sorry for myself and then go into depression? Or do I go, okay, well, apparently for reasons that I don't understand, That wasn't supposed to happen right now. And I'm okay with that. It is profound acceptance. Just as my quote about true happiness is the absence of the search for happiness, what we could really boil that down to is profound acceptance. I'm in harmony with the way that things are right now. Even in this situation, and I get it, people are struggling. My heart goes out to the guy who was running up and down the steps at Dodger Stadium selling popcorn. Like, what's that guy doing? You know, I'm an empath. I feel for people who were barely making ends meet as it was, right? I don't know what these people are doing, and I can only hope and pray that somebody is helping them or they're dealing with it, right? Yeah. But even in the space of trying times, there is an opportunity to find harmony with reality, to not fight reality, to come together, to develop more trust, to develop more patience, to develop more humanity in the way that we support one another. And that to me is the greatest opportunity here. And despite all the loss that is happening for so many people, I hope that's the one thing we don't lose, is that this is an opportunity to develop more love and kindness for one another, including ourselves.
How do you deal with the feelings of not enough, of not being enough, you know, like not getting enough done, for example? Right now you're sitting in and you feel like, you know, I want to deal with it and I want to be productive. I don't want to waste this time like watching TV. And then you just feel like you're not doing enough, and then you like guilt trip yourself for that. Like, how do you listen to yourself, and how do you talk to yourself?
It's a great and very prevalent conversation, right? Like the feeling of inadequacy that humans have. So I would say the similar way that you asked, how do I change my talk? I said, don't worry about changing your talk, listen. So it's about asking, is it true, as an actual truth, that you are not doing enough? Relative to what? You know, it's only relative to your own idea of what you should be doing. That's that need, should, have to conversation again, right? Like that's where you put pressure. This is the thing I want you to understand. When we have a narrative, which is natural, right? Meaning like it's not natural, it's normal because it's human, which is that I feel somehow not enough. I didn't do enough. I didn't work hard enough. I'm not producing enough. I'm not creating enough. Whatever it is that I'm not enough. I would assert that's primal, right? That's just part of the ego. It feels inadequate. Then when we judge that, we're putting pressure. Like that conversation creates pressure, right? It says judgment upon ourselves. Now think about that. When we put pressure on ourselves, we are less inclined to be in action. So it becomes a vicious cycle. So the judgment of inadequacy has a heaviness to it. It's not encouragement, right? Like when I work with leaders of companies and I ask them to empower through appreciation, right? A lot of old-time bosses like to make people wrong, right? Don't do this, you did that wrong. It's a very detrimental, disempowering energy. But for new companies and new leaders who truly want to be inspiring, I say, you've got to appreciate, acknowledge. So when you appreciate a human being, say, hey, this is I love the way that you did this. Like that human steps forward. The energy is space. They're being encouraged to do something. So likewise, what can you look at in your own life and find acknowledgement for? The fact that you put this together, you know, we're both taking time. Can you acknowledge yourself that, you know, you announced to your group, you took time to make yourself look beautiful, you contacted me, like you put energy into this. That to me is a much more powerful conversation to nurture than the one about what you didn't do. Right? It's easy for human beings to focus on what we did wrong versus acknowledge ourselves for the little steps that we have taken. So two things. One, acknowledge yourself for what you have accomplished. And two, question again the validity, the truth of these statements of our own inadequacy. Because I promise you, I absolutely promise you, there is nothing not enough about anyone. It's a conversation. It's a narrative, it's a dialogue, it's a piece of programming. I cut you open, Aggie, oh look, I found like this label that says you're not enough. I'm not going to find that anywhere inside of you. No. It's a conversation, it's a story. There is nobody on the planet, nobody that is not enough. And for that reason, I go back to what I said, everybody warrants respect, everybody warrants kindness. The worst judge of yourself is always going to be you.
Yeah. So true.
Yeah, that's all, you know, and if you can overcome that if all that people get out of this time at being at home is to recognize, wow, I'm so hard on myself, and that's okay because it's human, but I'm not going to play that game anymore, people would come out of their homes in a few weeks, in a few months or whatever, and be so profoundly powerful in the way that they impact life because they wouldn't be up against the resistance of their own criticism.
So powerful. I really like what you said earlier about just adding a question mark to whatever self-talk we're experiencing at a given moment.
Absolutely. Anything that people question will lead to a different conversation. If you can really, rather than take it as a statement, like even you said, I'm going to be stuck at home for a month, right? That's a statement. You're implying it as a truth. You don't know that. I mean, I made a joke. I said, you might die of a heart attack from too much ice cream in a week. Great. Well, then the truth about being stuck at home for a month, you were lying. You're a liar. Aggie, you're a liar. Right? So we want to keep coming back to
sitting at home for a month really cool. When I think about it, if I had to pick, I'd go sit at home for a month and get a heart attack in a week.
Right. So, but what it really points to is, honestly, you don't know. We don't know. You know, it's like, we just don't know. They might suddenly they come up with the cure, this vaccine, which I'm not putting near my body, but you know, it's like, they suddenly everyone's like, oh, wow, we can go free in like 3 days. I don't know what the hell what's going to happen. So we want to keep staying in the I don't know, which is uncomfortable for the human mind. That's the work. The work is to keep embracing uncertainty, which is the title of our conversation today.
It really is.
And
I'm trying to squeeze one more question from one of my followers.
Yeah, don't we, did we not get kicked off air here in an hour or something?
I don't know. Yes, we got 7 more minutes, but let me just quickly ask you, she was asking about the idea of someone leaving you, you know, the idea where you're in a relationship and someone like leaves you, and then how do you deal with that? You know, like someone left you for someone else.
Okay, great. Sounds like the perfect thing that was supposed to happen, because that's what happened.
But they like feel like
I know, I'm kidding, I'm being gentle. No, listen.
I know, but it's frustrating because then you feel, okay, I'm not gonna talk.
So you mean about a romantic relationship? If someone is dating someone and somebody leaves you to go to somebody else?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So you're going to be left with whatever is unreconciled in you. That whatever life set up at that moment is to reveal where you're not comfortable with something. Again, it might be loneliness. It might be the feeling of, oh, I'm not enough. Like,
I love that person so much, and that person decides to walk away.
Great, then that's an even more powerful conversation, because if you really listen, everybody, if this is all anyone gets from this conversation, if you really love that person, then you will honor their choice, because love does not judge. Oh, that's going to take a minute to sink in.
But that's painful. Like, you want to be with...
That's you.
I'm just like playing devil's advocate. But
no, I get it. Listen, I've been there. My whole awakening was because I was in love with somebody who left me. No, I wasn't.
What's this for in love?
Because it wasn't real love. People don't understand what love is. Real love doesn't... Oh my God, we need another couple of hours if we're going to go there. Real love doesn't have any judgment. It doesn't have, like, that's attachment. If somebody, quote unquote, leaves you, first of all, they're going somewhere else. They're dating someone else. They might be with that person for a week and come back to you. I mean, it happens all the time, right? So, but they're choosing to go somewhere else. Love doesn't have an agenda. It would honor their choice. Now, yes, you might have feelings of missing the person, a little bit of sadness. That's human. Again, this comes back to how we started this conversation, which is we want to bring in that maternal energy of holding ourselves and going, that's okay. I had a beautiful time with that person, whether it's a week, a month, a year, a lifetime, I don't know. I enjoyed. I want to find gratitude for the experience I had with that person versus feeling depression for the absence of them. It's like celebrate the life we have with people.
No?
Pardon?
Dr. Seuss said, don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened.
Yeah. I mean, listen, my own personal experience. So when I went to college and I was 19, 20 at the time or whatever, I'd never been to the college. And so, everybody there is new, 17,000 students or whatever. And eventually, you get to meet people, you make friends, and you don't share your personal details on day one. But as you get to know people, you become more vulnerable. And so one of my friends, I can remember within a couple of months, we're talking about family. And, oh, where are your family? Where's, what does your dad do? And blah, blah, blah. And I explained that my parents died when I was young. And of course, because he's a nice guy, he said, oh my God, I'm so sorry, blah, blah, that must have been tough. All the things that humans say, which is very compassionate. And he said, that's crazy. He said, if we lined up all the 17, 18,000 students and we had to pick the one person whose parents had died when they were young, you would have been the last person I picked because you're so full of life. And I said, well, I appreciate that. It's very flattering. I said, but this is why, because my mum died when I was very young, 7. But my dad was only, around until I was 17. So I wasn't even an adult. Both parents died. But I said to him, my dad was one of the most loving men I've ever met. And even though I only had him for 17 years, I had the experience of companionship of son and father and vice versa for 17 years that most people don't get for 60 or 70 years with their dad that's still alive. So again, it comes back to the quality of interaction, the quality of engagement, the quality of our relationship. So
we're greedy and human, and we're like, oh, this is awesome. Like, why couldn't have both? Why can't I have a dad that I have a great connection with, and he lives until he's 120?
That's called being greedy, and that's why you're sitting at home eating ice cream.
Peter, no,
I'm messing with
normal feelings when you have
Of course,
wanted to
I get it. Listen, I get it. But there's a much bigger game at hand here. One of the questions you sent, it was something about how do I help people who are single to find a loving relationship, right? Someone posted on your thing. Yeah. And this is what we're talking about. The most loving, the most important relationship is the one we have with ourselves. So even in the absence of somebody leaving you and feeling the sadness, what you're developing is love for yourself. And that, to me, is the only way you can truly have love with another. Because until such time that we are totally at peace inside of ourselves, with ourselves, then we can't truly be with another, because there's going to be some attachment. There's going to be some form of dependency where I'm saying, I'll be happy as long as you're with me. But if you go, I'm not happy. That's not love, and that's not a healthy relationship. That's why, Tom Cruise, God bless him. I worked with him for 5 years. I love the guy. And, when he said, hey, in Jerry Maguire, you complete me. I mean, boy, does that appeal to the romantics. But boy, is it such a disservice to a healthy relationship. Because if you complete me, you're saying, 1, I'm incomplete. And 2, if you go, I'm screwed, right? No, I'm complete.
Oh my God, we don't have time for this. But you have some certain needs in your life, and you want to be with someone who fulfills your needs.
Yeah, but listen, what are needs? I need to go to the bathroom. I need to sleep. I need to eat. Like in Ayurveda, we recognize 13 needs.
Intimacy, for example.
No, it's not a need. That's a desire.
So
that's a desire. That's a personal preference. We rely on community for sure, but that doesn't mean that you have to be sleeping with somebody.
But I'm talking about even hugging, intimacy.
Yeah, it feels good. I get it. But so does eating ice cream. It's not a need. It's not a need. It's a preference. And boy, I'm super affectionate. I love to hug. I'll be hugging people as soon as we're out of here, right? I love to hug.
Be careful, everyone.
Yeah, look out.
You're in the way. Watch out, Peter.
The mad hugger, they let him out. He's free. He's loose.
Wait, I want to quickly wrap up because we're going to get cut off. But if you enjoyed this conversation and Peter's mind, thought it was super helpful. Peter, you're amazing.
I love you. I'm going to come over and get some ice cream when this is all done.
The funny thing, I don't even have ice cream, but just the metaphor for
Oh, it's a metaphor. Right.
All right, whatever.
All right, I love you all. Go.
I love you too. Thank you for your time.
Okay.
Don't hug someone.
I love myself. Ciao.
I love myself and I love you too. Thank you for this.